Cristel Orrand. Cristel is the author of two cross-genre novels, The Amalgamist and Kayal, the prose and poetry collection Heartwood, and most recently the novelette Mouthpiece, Mouth piece, in the Objectified anthology published by Crone Girls Press. She is currently working on my favorite subgenre, a Southern Gothic historical fiction novel series, and her poetry. Take it away, Cristel.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm loving that we're doing this on Zoom because the idea for this story actually started at the beginning of the pandemic because of Zoom. I'm blaming Zoom for this story. It deals a lot with some of the isolation people felt or the constant, you're on mute, you're on mute. Did you know you're on mute? Can you unmute your line? And that's where the ideas sort of started rattling for me. This is set in a kind of different, strange world, but very real, called DARPA. And DARPA is an acronym like most things in the defense realm. It stands for Defense Research Project Agency. And the women there are also very strong women, although they use different types of kind of unconventional weapons. Sometimes those include things like federal regulation on acquisitions, sarcasm, Title I of the Ethics in Government Act of 1978, any strange things they can use to navigate those corridors. Our MC that we'll be reading from today is named Karina Burns, and she's a 27-year-old Intel analyst. She's been working on an equation to predict the rate of change. Obviously, the military is very, very interested in this. But something pretty crazy happens, and all of a sudden she can't speak. She loses her voice. Now, she's a young woman. She grew up in a military family. She's a contractor. She's really used to having to watch her mouth and hold her tongue. But when she's faced with thyroid cancer, the cancer itself surrounds her vocal cords, and she is then faced with losing her voice permanently. Where we're going to pick up in the story is right after she's had surgery and is recovered and is back at work, but they had damaged the vocal cords so badly that they had to implant a modular voice device. And so she has what is called a mouthpiece, and this helps her speak. But it's doing some really weird stuff. This is not good, Karina thought as she headed home Friday evening. She'd spent her entire life in careful control and was losing it. First, she screamed at the guy in the metro, then she told her boss off, and then she did something she never did. She told her father how she felt. It was like something else was speaking for her. She recognized her own voice, but it wasn't what she wanted to say, and she definitely wasn't in control of it. Karina decided she needed to test her ability to watch her mouth in a controlled environment. And the best place for that was the colonel's house. Her father epitomized control, and her stepmother was one hell of a hot pink Georgia variable. She parked on the street in front of their large home in Vienna and evergreen-lined slate walk to the front door, which opened just as she was about to knock. Karina had never lived in this house, and she didn't feel any sense of attachment or belonging to it, despite the rows of photos of her. Still, she hugged her stepmother, shrugged out of her coat, and went into the den. "Hi, Colonel," she announced herself. "Twice in 1 week. This is a treat. Come sit down." He moved the pile of books on the chair to the floor for her. "You know you have built-ins for books," she teased him. "Then where would I put all these photos and awards?" he grinned. "On the wall," she answered. "Oh, is that what the hole in the back of them is for?" He laughed at his own dad joke, scooting the chessboard he had already set up to the middle of the desk. This game, like the vast majority of them, ended in a stalemate before her father said, "You're favoring the Queen's Knight. Sometimes you have to risk it." Over dinner, her stepmother said, "Oh, I hear you're working with your father now at the Pentagon." Karina will be presenting her change equations on Monday at Fort Meade, the colonel said. Did you make those edits we talked about? All set? Yes, I did, she answered, but I'm really worried about it. Her stepmother and father looked at her in puzzlement. She never expressed worry about anything. Is Chief Reyes giving you problems? The colonel asked. His deputy, she answered. But she had no intention of disclosing this. She had come here specifically to test her control over her own voice, and here she was, spilling her guts. She told them almost everything: the harassment, the fantasy league, Reyes putting her on admin duty. She watched as her eyes widened in horror, and still she couldn't stop talking. She kept rolling right through the incident yesterday where she punched the deputy with a coffee mug in the crotch and told him that she'd crush him like his. Her stepmother dropped her fork. Really, Karina, what has gotten into you? Are you trying to get yourself fired? And talking like that at your daddy's dinner table? My lord, say something to your daughter. Colonel Burns hadn't said a word. His face had gone from fury to shocked silence to something undefinable before he smacked the table and started laughing till he was in tears and wheezing. In between gasps, he said, "Crush you, like your balls." Oh, God, tell me again, exact words. Karina steeled herself. I said, "Get out of my space or I'll crush you like I did your balls." He laughed some more until he finally dabbed his eyes with the corner of his napkin. I'd have paid $100,000 to see that. Nathan, Diana admonished him. What? They had no right treating her like that. She took care of herself. I'm proud of you, he said to his daughter. The relief was tangible. This heaviness that she'd been carrying around eased up, but after that, she didn't have the heart to broach her fears about what she might say Monday at Fort Meade. She thanked them for dinner and went home telling herself to worry about it tomorrow. And she did. I know we're going to run short on time, so I'm going to pause there and just tell you all real quickly. She does go to Fort Meade. Does not go well. She goes on to Camp David. It also does not go well. So poorly, in fact, that 3 months later, please state your full name for the record, Acting Chairman Rocco said. Karina Noel Burns. Ms. Burns, after the incidents following the G7, the Senate Intelligence Committee has been tasked with investigating the accusations against you and the entity known as DARPA. Are you here of your own volition, and do you agree to answer the questions of this body fully and truthfully? She looked at the audience, found her father, still in uniform with the full bird insignia. They hadn't brought him down a rank. In F3, she thought, the ready opening. It was risky, it was aggressive, but she didn't have pawns to lose, and so she took her favorite piece, the Queen's Night Out, first. Yes, she answered, and from the records, you'll see that the voice implant has rendered me incapable of lying. And then she did the most badass thing ever, and I hope you guys will read it. Thank you for having me.